What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm BLAIDEN Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode going on for you today. We're going to recap the game ones of the NBA playoffs, as well as go over what we are going to call our draft crushes, which are basically guys that we just love. They don't necessarily have to be like, first overall pick.
Hot?
What?
Hot? They don't necessarily... This isn't like the guys that we think are the best looking. That's not what you mean by draft crushes.
I didn't even think about it like
we
that.
don't mean literal crushes.
We mean like how they play.
Yes.
Not what. Okay, I've got to redo my list then.
Wait. Okay. No, I need to know now who was number one.
Nah, never mind. I wouldn't. Just never mind. We could keep going.
Okay. Well, just before we get to those things, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today? Theo, I know they sent you to the coal mines.
They sent me to the coal mines for having too many bad takes. I was in Bisbee, Arizona, working in the mines, the copper mines. Bisbee, a nice place though. Once you do get above ground and see the daylight after a long, hard shift, if your eyes are still functioning and they're not gouged out by any accidents or anything like that. But shout out Bisbee, Arizona. Shout out the copper mines, and shout out. I don't know. There's really no one to shout out in this ugly Chicago Bulls game. I guess shout out.
This is horrible.
Shout out Holiday for hitting that deep three right there. Shout out Holiday for hitting that deep three.
Nice.
But yeah, don't shout out the refs. Don't shout out DeRozan. No shouting out anybody else. It's been rough. It's been a rough game. We'll be lucky to hit 200 total points here.
No, it's quite atrocious. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. There's been some good playoff basketball today.
Yeah.
So I can't be too mad at it. Good for Twitter. Finally got something to tweet about.
Fair enough.
Been pushing Jokic narratives all day. Outside of that, not much.
Speaking of traveling, I know Theo, you traveled to another part of Arizona, but Matt, you traveled to another part of Ohio this weekend. Did you see anyone or anything interesting while you were in Oxford?
No.
No, you didn't see anyone?
Not at all, dude. No, obviously I went and saw you guys and we had a good old time, but I'm back now. I'm back in Cincinnati.
Back in awful Cincinnati, Ohio. The worst city in Ohio, I fear.
True.
But just a reminder to everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Anytime anything good, this is our rule. Anytime anything good happens to Stay Hot, you have to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this weekend, I won Battle of the Bands. So you have to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is a fact.
You do.
Although I did not play behind my head.
So
it's
what did
sad.
the win really mean?
What is listen, it just means that we had the best band. I didn't need the best style points. But, let's just hop into... Do you want to talk about our draft crushes first, or do you want to talk about the NBA first?
Let's get the football out of the way real quick. I'm watching... DeRozan just missed another shot. I can't believe what I'm seeing.
This is so
I take
sad.
that back.
I think I made a video too being like, he'll do better.
In fact, I can believe what I'm seeing. Actually, I've seen it before. But
he's like, I'm watching it right before my eyes.
So I think there's a lot to talk about. But if we start with the draft crushes first, by the time we're done with this game might be over, this Milwaukee-Chicago game that's happening right now. So let's get into football first. And then once we're done with that, we'll have this game to talk about, plus the rest of them. So let's start with the draft crushes.
Fair enough. So draft crushes, I figure the way we go about this is we'll each just give one at a time. We'll give maybe two or three, depending on how we're feeling. Theo, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start off with Leo Chanel, the linebacker out of Wisconsin, who I talked about on TikTok a little bit. But first of all, the aesthetic value, let's give him the vibe check. Dude's got the crazy face paint. Dude's got death row painted on his arms. He's a linebacker with 15 siblings, and he's married at age 21. That's the kind of guy I want as my heavy hitting physical Mike backer, man. That's the type of personality. If that's a bad linebacker, I don't know ball. And look, he tested great at the combine, ran a 4.5. jumped high, jumped far, did everything you want to do, which gives me hope for his coverage ability, which he wasn't asked to do all that much at Wisconsin. He wasn't this guy who is in deep zones all the time. They sent him on a lot of blitzes, and it's the Big Ten, so there's a lot of running anyway. So he is not great in that area right now. He got picked on a little bit, but honestly, I view coverage for linebackers at this point a little bit like I view defense for like young guards in the NBA, which maybe that's a bad take, but if you have a guy like Trae Young who's bad in coverage, or not bad in coverage, sort of the NBA equivalent, bad at defense, but they're a prolific scorer, you still take that as some positive like value, and you're like, well, eventually down the road he'll get a little bit better at defense, and we'll take that. We'll take the lumps as long as he's giving us the more valuable thing. I think about like Darius Leonard, who can get picked on in coverage, but he does so many good things that it almost like you kind of take it. Or Devin White a little bit when the Bucks won the Super Bowl was far from above average in coverage, but like what he was able to do everywhere else was the more impactful thing there, and he was still a big positive. And I kind of feel the same way about Leo Chanel. Like when it comes to shedding blocks and defeating linemen, whether that be blitzing, the contact balance, the physicality, the hands, he can go through guys, around guys. He's really advanced in that area. I think he's going to be a really high level run defender and pass rusher from the linebacker spot right away. Reminds me a little bit of Demario Davis, just a jackhammer, really physical guy, and I like him a lot. I feel very strongly that he's going to be a fan favorite just of how he's going to live in the backfield in the run game. And if he does get picked on, it's a little bit harder to know when that's happening just because of how the broadcast angle is. I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I think that was the best player on the Badgers last year, and I think that he's a really good linebacker worth taking pretty high. I think he'll go I think some team could fall in love with him, take him late day one, but he's my favorite linebacker in the class. If you can get him in round 2, that would be
I was about
phenomenal.
to say, in order for you to really like love him compared to a lot, because I think that's kind of our criteria, is that not only do you have to be a fan of this player, but you also have to be a fan of them in comparison to how much other people like them. Other people like him, but not as much as me. But PFF has him. I was about to say PFF has him at linebackers 3,
rare PFF,
which is pretty high.
Yeah,
which is pretty.
PFF
high,
loves him. PFF loves him. They gave him really high run defending grades and pass rush grades. The production was off the charts. RAS of like 9.99, which is take from that what you will. But athletic. Very good production. You look at the sack numbers, 8.5, tons of tackles for loss, productive, athletic, and the tape matches it up. So he's the guy I'm betting on. I really like him. He's my draft crush.
Fair enough. Matt, would you like to go next, or do you think I should?
I think you should.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I knew that answer was coming.
You know me so well.
I do. All right. My guy is none other than George Pickens, and I think this is something that I've recently been getting on, is the idea that Stingley gets a lot of this hype for the prolific season he had as a freshman, and since then he hasn't really had that same level of production and success, but everyone just recognizes that corner is such a hard position that if you can do that for a single season, chances are we know you're capable of it. You can do it again at some point. The thing with George Pickens is he's kind of that same caliber, I feel like, where it's like he had this really prolific freshman season, but then, we had the COVID season in 2020. We had, then he tore his ACL. So he hasn't really had the chance to take that next step. But it's already apparent that he has all these tools. I mean, he's massive. I mean, when I watch him, I get Des Bryant vibes. Like I'm like, there is nobody that is that big that should be able to move that well. And the only guy that I've seen move as well as, or that is moving better than him at, a certain size is Drake London. But I'm talking like lateral quickness and stuff. But Pickens is a guy that I think like, outside of Garrett Wilson and Drake London could very easily be like the third best wide receiver.
Yeah. I was listening to SB Nation's podcast and they were interviewing Dean, and we interviewed Dean, but we didn't ask him this question, which was like, who was the most impressive dude at practice at Georgia? And I think he said Pickens. He said Pickens, like the incredible things that he was pulling off in practice that people couldn't really see. And we haven't seen like peak Pickens in a while. Yeah, because of that COVID season and because of the injury. He tracks the ball super duper well. Great hands, very low drop rate. You saw the incredible catch against like Alabama down the sideline, down the field, went up and got it. Yeah. A little bit of like a Kenny Galladay, Des Bryant, like you said, type of player. I am a little concerned. He ran a good time. I don't think he's like super explosive off the line. I don't think he's like, he had a good combine, but he doesn't on tape look like maybe the most dynamic athlete of all time, like really, really twitchy and explosive, like going in and out of cuts, which is like my one concern on him. But yeah, I do think that he has, when you translate his game to the next level, I think he can be an X. And there's not a lot of guys with that kind of like,
there's not a lot of guys in this class
that like cleanly project to that like one-on-one matchup winner.
And I think there's really like, I don't know if there's a lot of guys in this class that have both like the twitch and the size, like to be able to go up and just get things for you. Like Treylon Burks is a guy that I think has the size and can just body people. He has the speed to outrun guys. There's that play against Alabama where he like literally stops to make a catch and then reverses field and outruns the entire Alabama defense. But he's not like twitchy. He's not like making people. He's not like Jameson Williams or Chris Olave, where they're just so where like they're super quick, or even Garrett Wilson. Watching him in open field, but guys like a guy like Pickens is, I think, is a bit like a step down from Drake London is kind of how I see him.
I could see that a little bit. Yeah, definitely a contested catch winner. Maybe not quite as good as London is, but yeah, tall dude. Yeah. Contested catch artist and can kind of project to that X role for sure. So I don't hate the take. I really think it's possible that the Packers take him if they can't trade up for Jameson Williams or maybe Garrett Wilson.
That would be a really good pick.
I think Pickens
that would be a really good pick.
Pickens is the type of wide receiver with the age and the athleticism and just kind of the game that they really appreciate. And that's the type of wide receiver they like to select. So watch out for that one, guys.
Should watch out. All right, Matt, it's your turn.
Give me Roger McCreary out of Auburn.
Didn't say a Cincinnati guy.
I didn't say a Cincinnati guy, even though I could have said pretty much any number of them.
Yeah.
I think with him, like, I get why his draft stock has fallen a little bit because he was supposed to be like a first-round draft pick probably a couple months ago, right? And then it's like, well, he's kind of short, and it's like, well, he's kind of light, and well, his hands are kind of small, and there's a lot of other cornerbacks in this draft class. But I feel very confident about him being, finding his way into a serious role in the NFL regardless. Not every single cornerback in the NFL is 20 feet tall with 20-foot arms, and you can.
You're right. Not all of them are like that.
He's not. He's not 5 foot flat. Like he's very quick. He's very aggressive, and I think he's super smooth. Closes space really well. And the big thing, you brought this up a while ago, Theo, where it's like played well in the SEC. If he was too small or he was like not big enough consistently, you would know if he's going up against Alabama, and he played really well against Alabama.
And he did it on like, I don't know the word. They weren't like Mickey Mouse coverage reps either in the SEC. Right. The guy was in man coverage a lot. His change of direction ability is very good, and he knows how to, even though he's shorter, he does a decent job contesting things and timing things up like that for sure.
So you got like a quick, fast, good in coverage, physical, high play strength guy who didn't go hide against the top competition in college football. I think he has a good chance to be like maybe the 6th cornerback off the board, or maybe later. I really didn't look at it, but I think there he'll find the way onto a team and into a starting role.
I would hope he would find his way onto a team. Yeah. I think that's a decent take. The combine did kind of cool me on him a little bit, but yeah,
he also ran a 4.5, and I know that's like not fast enough, but also I feel like I guess now we're talking about a short, not bad long speed corner, and I understand why people are scared of that.
Okay.
But I see it regardless.
Matt, I'll go to bat for you real quick. Mm-hmm. When I watch Khair Alam's a guy that I think loses at the line of scrimmage a lot, but he wins a lot of reps because he has great hips, he can turn around, and he has great catch-up speed, and he'll end up making a play anyway, even though it looks like he's often out of position. But McCreary, I think, can win a lot at the line of scrimmage. And I think if you can win a lot at the line of scrimmage, you then don't need that long speed necessarily.
I think Elam is actually a guy I can name as a draft crush, honestly. I love Elam.
I love Elam too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's a different way of winning reps. You can win reps with your speed, or you can win reps just like being physical at the line.
Yeah, I guess I'll go again. I think we can each do two, and then we got a lot of basketball to talk about. My other guy I'll go on the offensive side this time, and I'm going to talk about Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State. He's a tight end. Look, go back and watch his high school film, okay? Just look up Jeremy Ruckert high school highlights. They're what you'd expect, like a superstar tight end's high school highlights look like. He was the second greatest recruit in the entire nation, okay? And he went to Ohio State, which, I mean, I sort of get because, it's not that terribly far from his home in New York. Like, it's Ohio and New York are pretty far away, but it's not like the other side of the country or anything like that. And it's a great football school. So, like, I kind of get it, but also they just don't target tight ends. They never really have. There's 4 reads before the tight end in that offense, and with those wide receivers, usually one of them is open. So there just wasn't much production at OSU for him. But if you look at like what he was doing when he was targeted, he got everything, man. Like great hands, one-handed catches, like left and right. You saw him in the championship game against Alabama 2 years ago. He had a fantastic one-handed catch. And in the Clemson game, the week before that, he had a huge game and had some one-handed catches there as well. Good after the catch, good size. Again, catches everything. Decent blocker, not great at it at this point, but I think he's got the frame to get a little bit better there. Reminds me a little bit of like a Zach Ertz type or something like that. I think he can be one of the better receiving tight ends in the league, man. He just catches everything, and he's athletic and just the total package, I think. I really like what he was. I think if he went to a school that featured him more, he would be a no-brainer high pick, or at least one of the 2 best tight ends in this class. It's just, you got to really watch a lot of Ohio State before you kind of get a read on how good he is, because he just didn't quite get the opportunities. But with what he did in high school and what he did when he was actually had the opportunities at OSU, I think his best football is still ahead of him, and I think he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player.
I told you this, but my dad specifically said this like a year ago or whatever. He's like, Ruckert is going to be one of those guys who's way better in the pros than he was for Ohio State. So
your dad knows ball in that case.
He does. I agree. They never, ever, ever throw to the tight ends. And it's crazy with how it doesn't seem to matter.
This dude was the second best tight end in the country. Like, they was the number 2 recruit behind, I can't remember who it was. It may have been the Tremble. I don't know. Who went to Brevin Jordan, maybe? The tight end who went to
Miami.
Miami. Who was that? I can't remember.
That was not Tremble. It wasn't Tremble.
And Tremble went to Notre Dame. Brevin Jordan went to Miami.
It was Brevin Jordan. He was the second best recruit in that class behind Brevin Jordan then. And like anyone else would have made him like a central part in that offense, and he would have put up huge numbers. I'm so convinced. Right. But he went to OSU, and they just... And valid for them. They didn't need to, but he just went to a place that couldn't really utilize him.
Yeah, I don't think it's not his fault. It's just like they had like the leading receiver on their team, and like because what was it Njigba? Yeah, who's probably going to end up who's like now like a Heisman candidate for next year, and then they're also going to have 2 receivers that might be top 15 picks or top 20 picks. Like they're loaded.
No, they're loaded. So he's my other guy. That I think. All right. I think that he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player, and he's kind of getting overlooked because of the lack of production.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna take over on the defensive side then, since you switched over to offense, Theo. I'm going to go with Michigan edge defender David Ojabo. I've mentioned before, I think that like both Hutchinson and Ojabo have just the most fluid and clean pass rushing moves that you will ever watch. Like Ojabo's spin move it's so precise. Everything he does is just so well thought out, and he always has his eyes in the backfield. Like you'll see, like even if he's like he doesn't quite win his pass rush attempt, he has his arms locked out. He can see what's going on, and if the quarterback rolls his way, he's right there to make a play. He's always going for the football. Like I do not see a scenario in which this guy doesn't work out in the NFL. Just how smart and disciplined he seems.
He's pretty new to playing the position too. He hasn't been doing it for all that long, and he's already a good pass rusher. I think my take on him is like, this is a dude who's a Robin. Like this is not someone who's going to be a essential part of the defensive line. This is Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, Vic Beasley, like a speed rusher like that. Plus he's coming off an Achilles injury now.
That's what I'm saying. The Achilles doesn't scare you at all.
That scares me. He's not great against the kind of small. I don't think he has much power in his hands. So if you can get him in like the second round, I think you're good, but I wouldn't. He was getting some like top 15 hype before the injury, and I didn't even see that at the time. And now he's got an injury. So I'm going to, he's not my draft crush. That's all I'll say.
Okay. I'll give you the injury might be a little bit worrisome.
I do think that he's got like the 10s. All those guys I mentioned, Dupree and Landry and Beasley, have had seasons where they've been double-digit sacks. Yeah. So if you're getting that, like
if he is the, like you think about like a top-tier defensive line, if he's the second best player on a top-tier defensive line, if he's like the number 2, like if you have like Myles Garrett and he's Jadeveon Clowney, I think you live with that.
Or like Aaron Donald and he's Leonard Floyd. That's who he is. He's like that. Yeah, which is like
that's a good thing to be. Like
depends on where you're picking. You don't want to pick. You don't want to pick him in the top 10. And it's like Karlaftis better. Karlaftis is better. That's I guess I take Ebiketie. I like Ebiketie. He's also a draft crush of mine. Ebiketie is another guy that I really like, but
Ebiketie is good. But
anyway, I don't want to totally rain on your parade, though. He does. I'm just gonna step in and say.
And it's like I don't know. I one thing I also care about a lot, and Matt put me onto this, is the idea of like guys that grow and that like show like really consistent and
still
really
getting taller.
He's still getting taller.
The doctor says he's going to be 6'6".
He's not done growing.
He's not. That's the crazy thing about him.
He's not.
But Theo, you mentioned he's new to the position. I mean, the jump that he's made already to be as precise and clean as he is as a pass rusher, I think is remarkable. Yeah. I mean, you see guys that have been doing this for a while. One guy I always mention, Trayvon Walker, has 3 years of bad pass rushing habits at Georgia. And David Ojabo has like 1 year of amazing pass rushing habits. So
yeah, and I don't think Trayvon Walker's on any of our draft crushes list. That's for sure.
No, he's not.
We'll see.
All right, Matt.
Oh, and mine, I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker, and this might be cheating because he's consensus running back 1. However, that does not mean that he is not underrated. I feel like you'll see people like throw out, kind of a hot take. Maybe this running back should go round 1, like, with Hall or Walker this year. But realistically, like they have not been getting much hype to be first round picks at all.
No,
really,
they haven't.
I see a lot of people having them going mid-second round. And okay, fair enough. Like maybe that's the smart thing to do. Maybe you don't take a running back there, and that's the argument for that. But I look at Walker and I look at some of the other guys who have been first round draft picks who are running backs, and I don't see what Kenneth Walker is missing.
Yeah.
Blocking
is like the one thing where it's like he's not that good at it.
Just give him the ball, and then it's not even a problem. You got 5 other guys at least out there to block for you. his pure running ability is just insane. His vision is crazy good. He's got the speed. He has the broken tackle percentage or whatever. I know there was one game you were talking about a while ago where it was like
the Miami game.
The Miami game. You will go watch him versus Michigan. He was just ridiculous. And I understand it's like, oh, well, running backs are not that valuable. But Kenneth Walker is such like a home run hit, potential type player that, you can tell me all you want about how they're not that valuable. But if he breaks 2 tackles and takes one 70 yards, that's good, in my opinion. So I think Kenneth Walker just has like the full skill set of somebody I'd expect to be a round 1 running back. I do think there's a few teams like, I look at the Bills, I'm like, I know it's not their biggest need, but man, dude, if they had him, how ridiculous would they be, right?
Yeah.
And I think that he should at least get some first round hype.
Walker is like the 10th rated player on my board, and like Breece Hall is like 11th or 12th.
I can give you, I think, 2 reasons why they're maybe not getting as much or at least Kenneth Walker. I'll give you 2 reasons. Number 1, I do think people are just like have a bad taste in their mouth from first round running backs.
That's no fun.
And then you're right. It's not fun, but you think about like Saquon's had the injury issues, right? You think about, even ETN last year, got hurt. And I'm not going to just sit here and be like, oh, you can never take a running back in the first round. But I think like so many people are like coming around to that idea that it's just like, even if you think a guy is good, you're just going to automatically put him lower.
But what if I know he's good? Because I know this guy is
good. Well, the other thing is Kenneth Walker is 5'9".
Yeah, so is Aaron Jones, I feel like running back size matters less for running backs than any other position. It's the one where I don't think like being gigantic really benefits you more than being, because it's not like at corner you've got this, or at tackle, right? It's just better to be big because the goal is to like move you. Or at quarterback, you've got to like see everything. Or at wide receiver, you've got to like moss someone. Or at corner, vice versa. Like being big can help you not get tackled if you're a running back, and being small can help you not get tackled if you're a running back. Obviously, you can't be so small that you're going to get hurt. But he's well built. He's like a sturdy 5'9".
He's 5'9", 210. So like,
yeah, Kenneth Walker is him. So is Breece Hall, but I like Walker just a little bit more, but it's very slight. But that's not a big. I'm realizing we've named like almost all Big Ten guys. Just 2 more guys real quick. Khalil Shakir from Boise State, I really like. Really smart, positive player, good hands, good after the catch, good size, mostly a slot guy in college, but I think he honestly projects to the outside pretty well. And then Josh Paschal out of Kentucky, someone who can move around and play every position on that defensive line, good hands, decently athletic dude, got power, got speed, got hand placement, smart, good dude. If you like, his story is impressive. I believe that he beat cancer and is a very vocal leader in that locker room. So I think that he's going to be a really positive player and someone that everyone should be kind of itching to draft once the first round ends. So those are 2 more guys that just aren't give some other conferences a little bit of love, because those are a lot of Big Ten guys.
Yeah, we did do a lot of Big Ten. I didn't even like think about that. But I gave Georgia. It's Georgia Pickens,
yeah. Matt had SEC, he had Auburn, but anyway.
Yeah. So we went SEC Big Ten, and that was it. Screw every other different division. But I don't have a sweet intro this time. But guess who our newest sponsor is?
Who's our newest sponsor?
I said guess.
Is it Coca-Cola?
No, better.
Nike?
Better. Tesla?
Better.
I give up. What company is better than Elon Musk's Tesla?
It's better than Nike and Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola. It is. Coca-Cola? This podcast is brought to you by
Nestle. Just going to start naming out the most fucked up companies I can think of.
No, this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Factor. Winter is supposed to be kind of a hibernation time, I'm staying in more than usual because it's been cold out, but it's starting to warm up a little bit. That doesn't mean, I don't have things to do, that I don't want to, that I, want to spend all my time in the kitchen. Luckily, I don't have to. I don't have to always cook my meals. And I can still eat well, even if I don't feel like cooking, thanks to Factor. Factor makes it really easy to eat and clean, without having, the whole mess of, preparing meals for me. They make it easy to eat, clean 24/7 with fresh, never frozen prepared meals. They're so delicious, you wouldn't believe they're actually good for you. Factor saves me time by delivering chef-crafted meals to my doorstep, eliminating the hassle of grocery shopping and meal prep, not to mention cleanup, no dishes to wash here. Each Factor meal arrives pre-prepared and ready to eat in 2 minutes. That's even faster than ordering in. Take that, McDonald's. Take that, DoorDash. Factor tackles the tough stuff, so I don't have to. Their registered dietitians and expert chefs work hand in hand to create meals with nutritious ingredients. And with more than 29 meal options each week, I'm never bored. Factor even knows my preferences. They offer vegan or veggie meals. They can offer keto meals, low-calorie options, cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, plant-based bars, extra protein, veggie sides, and more to keep me fueled and focused all day long. So make sure you head on over to go.factor75.com/stayhot120 and use the code, of course, stayhot120 to get $120 off. That's code stayhot120 at go.factor75.com/stayhot120 for $120 off of Factor. It sucks.
That's a lot of money. You might be thinking, Blaiden, this sounds a lot like HelloFresh. But, as J. Cole said, they act like two legends can't coexist.
It's really a yin-yang thing. I mean, you're going for different stuff here.
Some guys
Factor was really good. It's
like LeBron versus MJ, where some guys are LeBron, some are MJ, but you really can't go wrong either way, Yeah. So if you didn't get HelloFresh, get some Factor, or if you did get HelloFresh,
here's some time to redeem. Here's a chance to redeem yourself. Here.
This is a chance to redeem yourself. Yes,
and what's interesting about the LeBron and MJ debate is that you can also have a Kareem, and in our case, our Kareem is PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, it's daily fantasy made easy, and we're going to get into basketball pretty soon. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS operator and offers every player in stat category you can think of. You can pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sport entries, so for example, you can take the over on Anthony Edwards combined with the under on Mike Trout in the same entry. And users that deposit and use our promo code will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just be sure to use the promo code STAYHOT. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com or their mobile app and use the promo code STAYHOT. Again, go to their app store. Go to the app store, download PrizePicks, or go to prizepicks.com. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Make sure you use the promo code STAYHOT. Now, let's talk about some basketball. We've had some playoff basketball going on. It's been a bad weekend for my Atlanta Hawks. That's all I'll say.
It was not a great first game from them. That was the game that started today. If we want to talk about that, I actually have a decent amount of things to say about it.
Go for it.
That went about as well as it could for the Heat, right? Like, what did we hear the entire time in the last 3 months about the Heat? Oh, it all depends on Tyler Hero. They don't have anyone except him who can be a high-level scorer or get a bucket when you need a bucket. And he had a bad game today. And they crushed the Hawks, destroyed the Hawks. And you look at that Heat defense, which is what they're banking on. Bogdanovich 0 for 8. Trae Young 8 points. They won that game big time without Hero really contributing. That bodes very, very well for them into the future here. So they were my pick to make it out of the East. They've been my pick to make it out of the East basically the whole time, except for that one day where I wavered on them. But the Pelicans in the play-in showed why I should never do that, right? This is what I said Timberwolves, Pelicans will make it out. And then I wavered, and it just goes to show that my instincts have never once been wrong ever, and why I shouldn't. It's just an in real time example of why I never need to change my mind. So the Heat, they were my pick to make it out of the East, and they look great today. That was about as good as of a game and a performance as you could have asked for, and it really kind of maybe dispelled some of the myths. And Duncan Robinson was great off the bench. Max Strus, they're 15-2 with him is in their starting lineup since moving him to the starting lineup and Duncan Robinson to the bench. So Duncan's been a great bench scorer. Strus has been good on defense, impactful. Him and Lowry are the kings at drawing charges. So I really like what they've become and what they could be going into these playoffs and as they continue to move farther.
Yeah, this was about as, like you said, about as good of a game as you could have had out of the Heat. It was about as bad of a game as you could have had out of the Hawks. Trae Young had one of the worst performances I've ever seen from him.
Probably his worst of the year, yeah.
It was really bad. It was like 1 for 12 from the field, 8 points, like just bad all around. And one thing, I think there's two ways to look at this. You can look at this from the fact of there's so NBA had the NBA.com website. They have this like stat of like the history of 7 series playoff, the 7 series playoff. And since 2018, or it was recorded in 2018, not since 2018, but like, so the last known data is in 2018. That's my point. The team that wins the first game of the series at home wins the entire series 85% of the time. I think that's the first way you can look at that. And that is like some astronomical odds to beat. Okay. The other side of it would be that Trae Young will not play. You are damned to bet that Trae Young will probably not play this bad the rest of the series.
Well, an 8 seed has never beat. They've beat a 1 seed 5 times ever. So it's like, even if Trae Young bounces back, and if you look at the historical data, just a Hawks win in the series is like drawing one card out of the deck of 52. Like it wasn't favorable in the first place. So like, as long as the Hawks get a couple games off the Heat, they can feel pretty good about it. But like, if you're the Heat, you're looking at this game, like that just bodes so well for the future with everything that happens. Yeah. So that's my main takeaway. The Hawks aren't going to play that bad, and Trae Young's not going to play that bad every game. But shout out Spoelstra, shout out Bam Adebayo for being like athletic enough to like. He wasn't obviously the only one that caused Trae Young to have that game, but he was a big part of it. And for a center to be able to guard someone like that or help guard someone like that and be able to be quick enough to close out when he's out on the perimeter or do whatever you need to do to match up with Trae Young and the switches they put on him and everything. Just a masterclass of defense from the Heat in this game overall. Matt, any takeaways that I have not touched on?
I think you got most of it. I mean, people are probably overestimating a little bit how the Hawks, the odds of the Hawks upset the Heat. I know Trae Young's nice, but Miami focused in a lot on him, and they're going to for the rest of the series, and he won't play that bad again. But he is going to keep getting defensive attention like that from a smart team with a lot of good defenders. And the efficiency has always been a little bit with him. It's nice for Miami to see Duncan Robinson have a good game. He's also been a little shaky. If he's back to his old stuff, I feel like that's a bigger deal than people realize. If they're going to go win 7-game series, they're going to need those. Like, I don't want to compare him to Klay Thompson, but he's at his high end. He's one of those shooters where it's like in a 7-game series, you'll have, game 4. Well, that was a game where Duncan Robinson went 8 for 9 from 3, and that's why Miami was able to win. So getting that back for some of these later series is going to be a big deal. And it's true, their challenge that they're facing is that they don't have like a big number one, but you did see a pretty decent range of players go in and get their shots. It's not that Jimmy Butler, the 3-point percentage thing, I think scared people more than maybe it should have, because it's been true. Lowry still does his stuff. So even when Hero's not, and it's tough because, Bam didn't even have a great offensive game either.
No, he didn't. He didn't have one either.
115. Yeah. So they're fine. But I don't think this series, the Hawks just don't have the firepower to match up with
even if Capella does come back, it's just rough. They've got some nice offensive pieces and everything, but yeah, their defense is suspicious. And again, they let up 115 to what is supposed to be an offensively challenged Heat team with two of their best players not even shooting well, and they still gave up 115. So it's going to be tough for the Hawks. But Matt, the next game was Celtics Nets, which was I mean, best game of the playoffs so far, probably, which ended in spectacular fashion. But Matt, what were your takeaways? I just talked a lot about the Heat one. Matt, what were your takeaways from the Nets and the Celtics matching up in game one here? Kyrie looked rattled. That was my main takeaway. Kyrie was had a good game, but like just him and the fans were having that.
Yeah, that stuff definitely gets to him. I mean, it was a crazy game. I think the couple of big takeaways that I had from it, number one, the Celtics defense, even without Robert Williams, still elite, still very good, still enough to bother the Nets. Now, it's tough because like when we were talking about looking at this matchup earlier, it was like, okay, on the one hand, Boston has this great defense, but on the other hand, the Nets have like two of the most skilled shot creators of all time. So who are you taking? And I think the one thing that kills me about the Nets is that they have all this talent. And then granted, this was a close game, half a second off of us talking about how the Celtics failed and the Nets won, right? But I think the one thing that kills me about the Nets is like, maybe it's a little bit too much ISO ball sometimes. Like the spacing on that team is sick. And like they have, again, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving with spacing. It's not a bad formula, but there's a lot of times where I wish they were doing a little bit more.
You saw it at the last possession that they had in that game. Durant took it.
Right. It's like you can go Kevin Durant and Kyrie ISO all the time. And that is great. But imagine how much better it would be if that was not your first option quite as consistently. Like it should be here, like get into our stuff quicker. We have a lot of offensive talent on the floor. 10 seconds left. That didn't work. Okay. Pass back out, reset, KD ISO. And you saw it hurt them a little bit when the shots just weren't falling for Kevin Durant early in this game. And they're a very composed team and they were able to come back. And it was sort of a slow climb back because they were down, I want to say like close to 15 at one point. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
They were. It was at least 13 that I can remember, like late in the third too.
And it's like, they're definitely going to go get some wins in the series. It's going to be a brutally close series. But I think definitely on that last possession, like it didn't need to be like that. They had so much time. Like that could have been, they could have done more than that.
And there was an open guy too.
So I wish it wasn't so much KD and Kyrie ISO, which I know is ridiculous to say because it's the playoffs and okay, you want to slow the ball down and go ISO, but there's other things you can.
It forces them to play basically perfect for you to win, and Durant didn't tonight, and especially on that last, they would have won if he did, but he didn't, and especially on that last, he took that just crazy shot, which he can hit because he's Kevin Durant, but. He didn't hit it. And then that was such a stark contrast to the last shot the Celtics got where Smart, like they were passing the ball around. Brown got it in the corner, passed it to Smart, who with like the time running down had the mindset to fake the shot, like not just, I got to jack this up, but to pump fake, send two guys flying back, and then to pass it to Tatum, who again, time running down, like no panic, gets the ball, executes that spin move instead of just trying to go up like immediately once he gets it like a hot potato, but to hit the move and then do it, just really, really composed, like moving the ball, sharing the ball basketball in only like a couple seconds by the Celtics there. And that was just such a stark contrast to, Durant trying to put the dagger in, just like running around and then trying to hit the contested deep fadeaway. Like that's better basketball is not doing that. And honestly, the Nets are capable. I mean, we saw it in the Celtics, like not the Celtics, the Cavs game, like Kyrie and KD were sharing the ball pretty well in that game, despite, both of them going off. But yeah, consistently it can be a little bit of a problem for them.
Yeah. I think the other big thing I saw was, I don't know if you saw that. I think it was a Bruce Brown quote talking about how they're going to go after Horford. Dude must have had at least 5 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
dude, they're still getting cooked they're still losing that matchup, even with Robert Williams out, or at least they did this game. And that is trouble. Horford played. I think he had
20 points. The only guy who didn't have 20 points from their starting lineup was Tice. Tice didn't have 20. Everybody
and he had 6 offensive rebounds.
Damn.
yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, so it's just, I feel like that could have been one thing that really evened out the series. Is like, okay, if the Nets are gonna be about even, maybe. And the big department, all of a sudden, it becomes a lot scarier to go up against them because that's one of their big weaknesses. And if that's not the case, I don't know. Claxton had some good plays, but he wasn't all around great. And then Drummond, Drummond has a lot of lapses when he was out there, and then he picked up fouls pretty quick. So I think that's going to come back and bite the team here a little bit too. So I'm worried for the Nets. I'm worried for the Nets after this game. There's definitely some things that we saw, but at the end of the day, they do probably, they do have the best player in the series. And if Kevin Durant doesn't start so uncharacteristically cold again, we're talking about something different.
Yeah.
But I really thought Boston's defense played so tough. Marcus Smart had such a good game. Horford had such a good game. You really saw everyone do it. It's Suns-esque when a team is really playing well together and everyone does what they're supposed to do. That's how the Celtics are, and it's crazy the turnaround they've had this year. And that final play was maybe the best example of that. Thinking to pass out of that with 2 seconds to go, and then Tatum being so quick to spin around and get past Kyrie, and then versus a Nets team that was very lost on defense on that play. So it was a great game.
The first thing I did after this game, because I was like, I felt like no one, like you guys said, it felt like it was iso ball pretty much the whole time. And I was like, did anyone other than, Kyrie and Kevin Durant even have more than 10 shots? That was like the first thing that popped into my head. Only Dragic, he had 11.
Dragic had a nice little game.
He had a pretty solid game for himself. He was the only other player on that team that put up 10 shots.
Yeah, and with those two, I mean, yeah, you do want it to be
either Kevin Durant. It wasn't like it was like, at least with the Celtics, like the Celtics only had 4 people put up 10 shots, but it was like well dispersed. It was like 17, 18, 19, but with the Nets, it was Kyrie had 20 shots, KD had 24, Dragic had 11. Well, the other game that I think we should talk about is probably Bucks Bulls. That one just ended a little recently, and I feel like this is the game, like the game the Bucks had. I feel like it's the game people thought the Heat were going to have.
Maybe, yeah. It was a tough offensive game all around. DeRozan turned into playoff DeFrozen once again. Shot like 5 for 22.
Sending him to the coal mines.
As one person on my timeline so eloquently pointed out, Caruso had like 12 stops and then DeRozan just rewarded him with shotgun blasts to the rim every time.
This was the Bulls' chance to dude, the Bucks played terrible. They had like 20 turnovers or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
It is something ridiculous. 21 turnovers. And to a point,
Middleton shot bad. Giannis wasn't like totally dominant. He got his, but Middleton shot bad. Giannis shot bad. They turned it over like 21 times. And Levine had a good game. And
you had a game where they had 21 turnovers. Middleton and Holiday both had more shots than points, and you still lost, dude. I think a lot of it is I feel bad. The Bulls really miss Lonzo desperately. But I don't know if there's anything to say other than the Bulls do not have a Giannis stopper on this team, I fear.
Yeah.
Or a real game plan to contain him in any way. So even when you get all the breaks in the game and it's you get them on the most off night they could have, you still don't win. It's tough.
I know Bulls fans will have I'll stick up for Bulls fans a little bit. They didn't get all the breaks. I think there were some bad penalties on Levine, but still that, and we talked about last.
Right.
We talked about last shots and how the Celtics just had a gorgeous sequence, whereas the Nets kind of chucked up a prayer. Bulls kind of did the same thing. They were down by 3 with, enough time that they didn't need a 3, like 20, 30 seconds, something like that. And Levine just shot a deep 3 that missed when he really didn't need to do that. And it was just a little bit of a collapse. And you could tell the way Caruso was acting afterwards. He looked pretty devastated for, just being down 0-1. I mean, I know that's bad, but you could tell, especially by Caruso's body language, that was one they needed to win. And the fact that they didn't get out of there with a win is just kind of a disaster. Levine he shot well, especially went on a run right at the end of the second, or at the beginning of the second half. Vucevic, I thought, shot pretty well. He had some nice buckets when they were trying to claw their way back. He hit some threes and some, hook shots, like mid-range, and overall, like, the rest of the team played well, but DeRozan sold, and that last shot was bad, and Levine was in foul trouble, and they needed to get out of there with a win, and they just couldn't do it. So tough for me to. I think we picked like Bucks in 4 or 5.
I think Bucks in 4. I think I said Bucks in 4. Like
that game, even though it was close, I'm not too concerned about the Bucks or the Bulls making this.
We know what the Bucks are.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of other games to talk about. So this one is probably. It was a good game. It was a good game. It came down to the end, but I think we got to kind of speed past it and talk about some of the stuff that happened yesterday or 2 days ago by the time you listen to this.
Yeah. Here's the thing with a lot of the Saturday games. It's like 76ers Raptors blowout, right? We got exactly what we expected out of the 76ers.
I didn't expect it.
Well, okay, Maxey had Theo didn't expect it. Maxey had like the game of his life, dropped 38. And then, like, the Golden State Warriors basically blew out the Nuggets. I mean, it was 16, but
yeah, it was more than that, though. I thought it was really interesting. We talked about it going into this series about how the Raptors have done a good job on Embiid, and they did a good job. Embiid had 15 points, and they made Maxey beat him. They made someone else that's not Embiid beat him,
and they did.
They did.
That's the story of the game.
That's the story of the game. Maxey beat him, but. You do like what they were able to do on Embiid. That makes me at least think, okay, this is going to translate. They can still get a few games off of them and make this a series if they can they seem to be able to do this consistently to Embiid because it's happened a couple games over the past couple years against Nick Nurse. So I do think this will be a series that the Raptors can take some games off, even though they did lose big, and even though Scotty. I guess it depends on the severity of Scotty Barnes' injury, but. There was some good stuff to take away from them, and I think if they can consistently keep Embiid under control, they can still make this a series. That's kind of what my takeaway was. Van Vliet didn't play; he can play better than he did, and in general, they missed some shots they typically wouldn't miss. So they're a young team; maybe that had something to do with it. But once I get back to Tyrod,
and this is.
Go ahead. Matt.
This is a little bit of like a lot of things going right. A lot of players just had good games, but okay. Embiid is drawing a lot of attention, right?
Yeah.
That's great. And I think the 76ers have the other guys, and Harris and Maxey and Harden to get it done.
Yeah.
If you can't get away with giving that much attention to Embiid. So maybe this isn't a one game thing. And maybe the trend for the rest of the series is that the Raptors are saying, okay, we're not letting Embiid beat us. You have to win through Maxey and Harris and all them. And at some games it may not, and Harden. At some games it may not go as good as it did this time for the 76ers, but I do think it'll go right more times than not. And I do think
maybe it doesn't end in a 20-point blowout every single game.
Possibly.
Yeah, I imagine I don't know. I feel like they get out of here in 5.
They can win 3. Yeah, it was definitely the first half that they have was just a masterclass. No turnovers, shot really well. I mean, they had maybe their best first half of the year in this game. So the Raptors' defensive efforts aren't exactly deserving of a standing ovation. But I don't know. Maybe I'm coping because I picked the Raptors in 7 in this series. That's what I'm doing a little bit. But I don't necessarily.
I did the same thing with the Hawks, man. It's okay.
I do feel like the Raptors can still, once Thibault gets gets out for these games in Toronto and they're at home court and all those things happen, maybe they can get some games there and this will still be a series. I'm about to talk about Warriors and Nuggets, which was a 20-point blowout that I don't expect to still be a series. This is a 20-point game that I do expect to still be a series.
But yeah, Warriors Nuggets again, just another blowout. And this is kind of what is. This is actually the series that I think has gone according to plan, or that will continue to go according to plan.
The Warriors are so scared. They're my pick to win the whole thing, and that is just how I feel. I mean, you got Poole dropping 30. You've got Clay, who's been hot as of late. You've got Steph, the scoring potential that they have, and then they've got good defensive wings. They've got a coach and the vets who've been here a million times before. I think that they could end up being kind of a juggernaut in these playoffs. The last time we saw them in the playoffs all healthy was the 2019 season, and they got to the finals that year and probably would have won it if it wasn't for injuries to both KD and Clay. This is a better, maybe not a better team than that 2019 team, but like, again, the last time we saw the Warriors this good, they got to the finals pretty easily, and although they lost after some injuries, they're in it for the long haul, in my opinion. They're super scary and dangerous. And they're well built and well coached, and defense can be really good. The defense can be elite. The offense can be elite. They'll have the best player in just about every series that they play still with Curry. So man, it's tough for me to pick against them right now. And it was light work, and Poole being big is just so huge for them.
Theo, you are the only person I know that will just religiously pick against your own team.
Either I'm right or I'm happy, man. Either I'm right. I still get to go to the championship parade if my Suns, do what in my opinion, what could be even a little bit of the upset. Devin Booker shoots in the last 2 years against the Suns. He shoots 34% against them on 19 points a game. They do a really good job on Booker, and they just got such a high ceiling that it. And plus, you guys both picked the Suns, so it also, if everyone's picking the Suns and the Bucks, I don't think the Warriors could make me look really smart. Is the other thing where that's not a bad sleeper pick if everyone is going to be on the rematch of the Suns and the Bucks, which could definitely happen. I'm not saying it might be like a 40% chance the Warriors win it and like a 38% chance the Suns win it, but I might give the slightest edge to the Warriors.
My fun pick was Philly, so.
And they got off to a good start. Matt, what were your takeaways on the Warriors? Because I know you're not quite as high on the Warriors as I am, but what were your takeaways as a Jokic defender?
I'm worried about Curry's ankle, man.
Fair.
We talk this team projects to probably have worse odds to be healthy. I also think that people are maybe they ended up losing by what? 16 points? And it's just if the way that people have talked about it, you would have thought that the Nuggets lost by 3 trillion points. I get it was tough, but the Nuggets also didn't shoot very well tonight, and the Warriors did. Now, I agree they're going to win this series, but I still do think the Nuggets get one. I don't think this is going to be a sweep.
Yeah.
And Jokic didn't have his best game. And a lot of that is the Warriors doing a good job defending. The Warriors are they're very scary veteran team. I don't think it's that crazy to pick them over the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. I don't. I do think it's crazy when you're a Suns fan.
Oh, look at you! Look, you picked the Hornets to win the thing, and you talked yourself into it, and then they lost by 30. Look, and
I'm still standing. I'm still here.
You're still here. Okay. You're still here. But here's the thing. I can still root for the Suns and hope they win, and they're my favorite team. And I still can be I think
there's no honor in this.
What do you mean there's no honor?
The more
you're going to go to the parade. You're going to go to the parade.
Of course, I'd go for the fucking parade.
They're not going to let Theo Ash in.
They are going to let him in.
They won't let him at the parade. No, they won't. And you'll walk in there, and one of the players is going to point to you from on top of the bus and be
you get him out of there. You're going to be carried off by a mob with torches. I'm not a normal fan. I'm not the same fan as everybody else at the parade in that I am paid to make predictions, and I have.
Oh, but you're different.
I have to go. Yes, not every fan has a podcast, and they're all their people care about their picks, and I'm trying to be right. Like again, like yes, sorry, I'm sort of doubting you, Suns, but I don't even doubt. I think the Suns could like win it as well. I don't doubt that they can win. I just think the Warriors, first of all, can make me I think it's about like the same, like very close to the same odds that the Warriors and Suns come out of there. But if 90% of the people are on the Suns and it's a 50-50 shot, and if I'm trying to look smart for my job, the Warriors are there and no one's on the Warriors and they could definitely win the whole thing. Look, I love the Suns. I hope they beat the fucking brakes off the Warriors. I hope they beat them 4-0, and I hope Booker averages 50 a game and Chris Paul averages a triple-double. I hope that all happens very badly. I would love to be wrong, but you know, I'm picking the Warriors, man. I'm picking them. I think that they plus, you know, the Suns want to be out. Everybody wants to be an underdog. So let's throw a log on the fire. You know, I'm helping them out.
You know, Theo, all I took away from that is you're just not strong enough to pick your team and be wrong. That's the takeaway.
What?
You're scared to put yourself out there. You don't want to. You don't want to be in a position to lose.
Look, I picked this.
It's a risk you have to take.
I picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl, and look what happened to them. All right, look, it's not good when you're sad and you're wrong. You know, and if I really like. It sucks. So I think that the Suns could win the whole thing, but in my bracket, I've got the Warriors. I love the Suns though. Like, go Suns. I'm watching them right now. I'm watching them beat the Pelicans. It's awesome. They're good job. Shout out the Suns.
Shout out the Suns.
Matt,
but
you guys have the Suns winning the whole thing. You guys have the Suns winning the whole thing. I don't, as a Suns fan.
I don't know. Like, I agree with the Warriors takes, but like 75% of the way.
Okay.
Where it's like, I like Poole. I feel like he's not dropping 30 a game for the rest of time on this efficiency.
But you know who is?
Like, probably isn't shooting above 50% from three every single game. Or like, I'm there with them, but like, it's a little bit too much game one overreaction for me. Just a hair.
But he's been doing this for like 2 or 3, 4 weeks, months now. He's been doing it for a while. But I think that's man, yeah. I think that does it. We got the Suns. Shout out the Suns. Defense is just absolutely bludgeoning the Pelicans right now. Playoff Ayton is back like he was last year. And Suns in 4 this time, like the guy. Suns in 4 until they meet Suns in 4 until they meet the Warriors, and then it could go either way. It could go either way when they meet the Warriors, but until then, it's Suns in 4. They're beating the Pelicans, and their defense is looking inspired. They're playing some spirited basketball right now. The boys, down a couple blocks away from me here in Phoenix, Arizona, a couple blocks away. Yes, so. That game is
recording the podcast instead of being at the Phoenix Suns game. That is his dedication. That is his dedication to the hotties.
It's on in the background there. That's how I know they're playing inspired basketball. Yeah. But yeah.
But that does pretty much wrap things up for us. As always, tons of content coming away on all platforms. We'll be back Friday. Talk about some more NBA playoffs. It's going to be it should be an exciting set of series. We're excited for the playoffs. The East has a lot of really good matchups. The West, of course, has a lot of really good matchups as well. And we will be back.
They do.
Yeah, they do. I mean, like, listen, you know, they got basketball, and
there's basketball happening. There's basketball.
They do be hooping.
The basketball
I'm just trying to
is
outro us,
good.
man. Like, I'm just trying to like spitball like an outro. I don't know. Like, but that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah. We'll see you guys around. You know, we'll catch you guys on the flippity flop. As always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll catch you guys on the flippity flop.